when we think about RHDV, there's also a misconception out there that unless it's a bloody nose, it's not RHDV. So, and that's simply not true. In fact, when I see a rabbit that presents with a bloody nose in the summer of Texas, my top differential isn't RHDV at all, it's heat stroke. I'm going to make sure that that rabbit has been in a climate-controlled area and not exposed to excessive heat, because I see that type of hemorrhage more common with heat stroke than I do. And in the cases of RHDV that I've actually necropsied myself, when I open that rabbit up, I have not seen any major lesions on gross necropsy. There's no blood in the belly. There's no blood in the chest. There's no blood pouring out of the nose. The liver's a little dark, a little friable, but it doesn't look too much out of the ordinary. You really do have to have histopathology and PCR done to know if RHDV is going on or not.
I've had veterinarians say the same thing. Oh, we did an in-house or in-hospital necropsy. There was no internal bleeding, so we ruled it out. And I was like, no. That's one of those other sort of misunderstood. And we've talked about how just because the disease is called hemorrhagic disease, they don't always die with hemorrhage.
Yes, the hemorrhage is really secondary to that acute hepatitis, liver failure that's going on. The liver is where we make our clotting factors. And so when you have severe damage to the liver, you can get secondary hemorrhage from that liver failure. Those clotting factors aren't working anymore. But that is not the primary disease process going on here. It's really liver failure that's causing the problem.
When the disease initially was first starting to be reported back in 2021, where it was sort of getting the most press, we were required, at least speaking for Arizona, but I think most states, to contact your state veterinarian, and they were the only ones authorized to approve and submit testing. And at that time, all the testing was going to one diagnostic lab, and that was where the basis of it was. Since then, other labs have offered testing. There's been information about labs offering some type of antemortem test, which I don't think is valid or used, but some of the sort of non-validated basement labs that have created a test for it. But it was exclusive to the state vet sending samples or authorizing samples to Plum Island, a diagnostic lab in New York. And now I believe it's expanded to more labs. It's expanded to more to state labs, the National Diagnostic Lab, and I think probably a lot of even regional labs test for it now.
Yeah, so, and sometimes they will still send those samples to FATL. So in Texas, if I submit a rabbit to our main diagnostic lab, TVMDL, a lot of times TVMDL, if I ask them to send it up the chain, if you will, they'll still send it to FATL, but there are more laboratories, but Texas Parks and Wildlife is using the National Diagnostic Lab for Wildlife. So it is not always FATL that is doing the test anymore, but most of those tests, if we're doing PCR, the liver, are still accurate. So just simply because a test is not done by FATL does not mean that is an accurate test. We have had some people express concern, well, if FATL didn't do it, is it really a positive test? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. We can trust these diagnostic labs now. There is, have you heard about this, Dr. Pilny?
No, I have not.
There is a new hyper-virulent strain that has been reported in France and the Netherlands. And there is some potential vaccine resistance for those European vaccines. Now, the great news for us American vets and American bunny owners is we have not seen the same with the Medgene vaccine.
And I'm not familiar with any confirmed documented change in the strain either here in the U.S. or any subtypes or anything like that. I haven't heard anything about that.
They've been keeping track of it. A lot of the wildlife vets in particular monitor the strains in North America. And for the most part, I don't think they've seen any major genetic mutation currently with the North American strain. But what we do know about rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus is that it's an RNA virus. And RNA viruses like to mutate, and they like to mutate frequently. And eventually, I do anticipate changes in our strains. But that's what I really like about the Medgene vaccine, is because of how it's manufactured. We know that Medgene will be able to quickly adapt to any strain changes that we see and be able to update our vaccine accordingly.
My experience using the vaccine clinically is overwhelmingly positive, and I know this has been discussed in other places, but I believe it's a very, or I don't believe, I see it as a very safe vaccine. We don't see any vaccine reactions. The vast majority of people indicate that their rabbits were fine. They didn't observe any real side effects. We've talked sometimes about those rabbits that may be a bit lethargic or behavior changes, which could also be from leaving the home, coming to the veterinarian, getting the injection, maybe a transient fever type state, but overwhelmingly have seen no serious reactions, and for the most part, the minor concerns that owners have reported have never been anything that an owner's been swayed. I've never had an owner say they don't want to vaccinate again because their rabbit had a bad experience, and I haven't seen anything serious ever happen. Knock wood.
I have seen one vaccine reaction out of probably thousands of rabbits now that I have vaccinated. In this case, it was a young Himalayan rabbit, and it developed redness right where I gave the vaccine. It was its very first round of the vaccine. So we did the first one, and then on that booster vaccine, it developed a redness right at the vaccine site. It had a little bit of hair loss there. We treated it with Benadryl and meloxicam, recovered beautifully, didn't bother the bunny at all. Next year, when it was time for the booster, we pre-treated the rabbit just with Benadryl, and there was zero vaccine reaction that time.